to Sunday Assembly San Diego. Hello, humans. You're my favorite humans. This is our 123rd in-person and 49th online assembly. Woo! My name is Alexis Record, and I'll be your MC today, along with my daughter.
Hi, I'm Lelia, and I'm your other co-MC. And if you ever want an MC in assembly, then just take a look at how I got here. Nepotism.
That's right. But the other reason you're here is to give a content warning.
Yes, I have a very special guest that I brought here today, and that not everyone will enjoy, but I personally think she's adorable. She is my little tiny pet spider, named Pixie. She's about the size of a nickel, and she will be inside her container at all times. And I mean, she couldn't hurt a fly. Oh wait. Anyways, it is this show and tell segment in your program, so if you need to walk out or cover your eyes, then I will not be offended. And I'll give you one more warning before I bring her out.
Now, you thought this content warning would be about cursing. Well, we are going to try really hard, because there are children present, to walk that fine line between what is cursing and what is not so cursing.
Totally.
All right. Where are we in this program? Yes, well-oiled machine. All right, we have the humans in the room we call Roomblers, and the humans on Zoom we call Zoomblers. So everyone wave in that corner to the Zoomblers. Zoomblers, Zoomblers. A spider-ers is behind the curtain.
Every assembly has a theme, and today's theme is curses, which I'm excited about because I love cursing. My favorite curse words are...
No, we won't be doing that, because if you've noticed, we have some special guests today from Journey Films, who are doing a segment for PBS, and we will not be cursing on PBS, because that would be naughty.
That's what she thinks.
So, Journey Films is doing a segment. If you would not like to be part of that, we have a...
Oh, I muted myself. That's messy.
Did you blow up your mic?
I did blow up my mic.
We'll talk into areas then.
R.I.P. Mike.
Hello.
There you go.
All right. Sorry, Mike. We have been together many assemblies. You have been faithful, but now you are dead.
She'll be back.
It'll be back.
Resurrect, yes.
Resurrection. All right. If you would like to enjoy our media-free zone, feel free. It is in the back, my right, your left. All right. We also have childcare with experienced childcare workers in the room with the windows. You can see them but not hear them, except for I used to say that. And now we have some budding vocalists. So I remember when this one was in childcare.
I'm not a child anymore, although my 5-year-old pictures are still used in a lot of the childcare promotion.
Upper right. Aww.
Anyways, our theme is curses, which is perfect because I've been itching to try and curse in front of my mom now that I'm all grown up. Which I won't do now, since I don't think that's appropriate for PBS. Exactly, PBS.
Just don't want to risk that. But I appreciate you not cursing, because, that would be bad, and I don't like that you emphasize that BS.
I mean, I wouldn't want them to be shocked and fall on their ass.
Lelia!
Asphalt, Mom. It's the mixture of dark pitch with scant sand or gravel used for surfacing roads, flooring, roofing.
Yeah, I know what that is. My bad. I thought you were going to
You
use
know, like the stuff that gets so hot that our neighbors have to put little booties on their head. Shih Tzu?
Their Shih Tzu? Yes, Sparky.
Yes,
I know Sparky. You're really walking that fine line we talked about with the no content warning, the children present. And so, this is really reminding me, actually, of that time we went to the Hoover Dam.
What? That was a great trip. We saw so many things. The damn tourists, the damn trees, the damn...
Oh, Jeff, let's do some music. Take it away, a song, any song.
Any song, yeah, we got a song. So, in keeping with our theme, in 1968, an Italian film director named Piero Umiliani wrote a song, 1968, wrote a song for his exploitive sort of documentary thing basically on Swedish bathhouses. And it was called Sweet Heaven and Hell. Okay? And he wrote this song, and we're going to sing it right now. It goes like this. Manana, sing. Manana. Just the high voices. If you have a high voice, sing. Ready? There you go. Sort of an avant-garde pitch there. How about the lower voices? Got one? Come on. Put your coffee down. One more time.
So my mic and I had a talk, and it's decided to cooperate the rest of the time.
Loves you.
Feeling the love. All right, well, welcome to Sunday Assembly. Our motto is to live
Better.
help
Often.
and wonder
More.
Live better, help often, and wonder more. We were started by two comedians on their way to a gig, and that's about the seriousness of the tone of each assembly. And if you have a thing going on in your life, we want to offer community. That's why we're here. We want you to feel part of something in your community bigger than yourself. We have service projects for the help often part. We have groups for living better, wondering more. We have amazing speakers. And if anything is happening in your life right now that you want to share with the group, big things, small things, large things, sad things, happy things, we want to hear about it because we want to get to know each other, and we want this to be a community, not just an event once a month. So in that vein, we have Life Happens, and that's the little cards you filled out at the welcome table. So I'm going to read, I think I'm too close to this mic. There we go. Let me first off read two Life Happens that somehow got missed. So we want to acknowledge our error from last assembly, and we reached out to both people. So we're going to read them today. Remembrance of my sister Keela, who left this world on February 12th, 2019, hoping for illumination and treatments for bipolar 1, less suffering, more brilliance and love. I love you, Keela, from Sat. And then from Sarah, who's not here today due to an injury. As many of you already know, I started a new job last fall as a founding team member for National Math Camps, a nonprofit building and running summer programs for kids that love math. About a week ago, we admitted our first batch of campers and got our first few enrollments. So exciting to see this idea turn more and more into reality. Very exciting, Sarah. This is also Sarah, but from today, because now we've caught up for the ones we missed. Sarah on Zoom, who's joining us, one of our Zoom players, she sprained her ankle and is doing PT, physical therapy, but she is frustrated because she can't do her powerlifting workout, and sprains have a long recovery time. Yes, they do. All right. And then feel free if you would like to kind of wave your hands so people know when we're talking about you, who we're talking about. Mikey, I'm a special education teacher, and I'm worried about all the students and families that we support. The Department of Education helps fund districts so we can provide quality services to our children. Thank you for reading this. Thanks for sharing, Mikey. I know that is a worry of a lot of us. All right, Terry. I had a great time petting whales last month. Where was that?
It's in Scammons Lagoon. There's the
Scammons Lagoon.
Yeah, the gray whales, when they migrate from Alaska down to birth their young, there's 3 places in Mexico they go to. So I got to go to one.
So he went to one of 3 places you can see these whales in Mexico.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. I've never seen more than a spout in the distance.
That was at elementary school during the mine, because in elementary school we learned about this, and it took me this long to get there.
And it took a while to learn how to get there. All right, Val. Where's Val? Hey, they're in the back. I'm excited because my azalea bushes are starting to bloom. Very cool. Azalea was one of my baby names. We went with Laelia, which is a genus of orchid. And then my other daughter's Violet. There's a theme. All right, who's this friend? Jim. With great relief, I can inform you that my daughter and her family in Polar Bluff, Mo, help me out.
Missouri.
Thank you, Missouri. Remember when all my MC address were audience participation? All right, are safe and sound. Friday night, 4 tornadoes tore through the town, destroying houses, homes, and structures. 4 people died, and many were injured and left homeless. One of the tornadoes passed directly over my daughter's home, but luckily was airborne at that moment, not on the ground, and their house sustained only minor damage. That's Jim Davis. Yikes. All right, from Babs. Rick and I are exploring our next chapter for living, Touring Life Plan Communities. Touring Life Plan Communities in San Diego, and hoping to move in the next few years. I hope I said that correctly, Babs.
Life Plan Communities.
Life Plan Communities?
Life Plan Communities.
Life Plan, one thing. Communities. Thank you. It was good seeing you at the cleanup yesterday. All right. I'm not seeing the name, so I'm going to start reading and hopefully it will become clear. I was accepted into the Masters in Social Work program at CSV San Marcos at age 43. This is an exciting pivot and life path change. Yay, someone! All right, in the corner. Okay, that was sad again? Sought. Okay, sought. Sorry about I'm missing your life happens last month. I'm glad you're still life happenings all over the place for us. All right, this is from Amy, one of our visitors from Sunday Assembly Los Angeles. Just started a new career venture called Blue Dot Milestones, offering event design for offbeat, rites of passage, officiating, and that word classes.
Kintsugi.
Kintsugi.
The Japanese are preparing
Our Japanese art repairing pottery, is that the one that uses gold and emphasizes the cracks? Okay, I've heard of it, my brain doesn't read it. Great. Thank you. It's been 2 days from now will be 1 year since my traumatic brain injury, which took my reading comprehension, so thank you all for helping me do this. All right. Oh yeah, that's my life habits. That was planned. Not just describing why I talk funny sometimes. All right, Sebastian Brandt and I have gotten very into volleyball. We bought a net. Does anyone want to go to a park and set up and play? Amy Boyle. Okay. Yes, yes, and another yes. We got hands. All right. Lelia. Oh, I know her. I named her. I have a play we're doing, performing on April 24th and 25th, I think, and I'm very excited to do my part. The play is High School Musical, and I'm playing Mrs. Darvis, the drama teacher. Okay, this one just says, ask Paul.
So,
Do you want my mic?
Excuse
My mic's
me, an audio
behaving.
professional will be with you in just a moment. So when I was 17, a little while ago, I met a man named Jim Strathy. Jim Strathy was a folk singer from the 60s. He was a songwriter. He was very involved in social justice and many things of that ilk. And I met him, and I became friends with him real quickly, and I became his bass player. And we started doing gigs. And then Jim introduced me to another Jim named Jim Manley, who was of the same ilk, that he lived in Hawaii, and he came over here. Anyway, these two guys were my mentors. They were why I do this. Absolutely, it all roots back to them. Well, yesterday, up in Claremont, Pomona, we did a gig together, all three of us, and some other people helping out. They're up in their 80s, and they can still sing, they can still play, they still just got to be careful walking up the steps to the stage. But it was so meaningful to me to have those people there and just, know how much history, 50 some odd years of history we've got together, and we're still really good friends and talk all the time and play music occasionally. So it was really good.
Thanks for sharing that. If you have a life happens you'd like to share, just please write it down and put it in the box at the welcome table, or if you give us a bunch of notice, maybe let's say a week, we can get you, and you have pictures to go with your announcement, we can put the pictures up on our slides. We just need time to add them. All right. Live better, help often, and wonder more. Let's talk about how we help often. Sunday Assembly San Diego does many charity ventures. We are looking for ideas all the time, and to give us the update for this month is our chairperson, Jen.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. So yesterday, 19 of us went to our adopted beach at South Shores on Mission Bay. There's a picture of us all together, all the cleanage from the event yesterday. The beach looked fairly clean. We picked up 145 pounds of trash and recycling. And Ms. Gracie Soden is going to talk to you about our next event.
Sunday Assembly San Diego is partnering with I Love a Clean San Diego. We're calling the cleanup I Love a Clean San Diego Sunday Assembly. It's April 26th, and we're super excited about this. It's in Pride Square in Hillcrest. So please join us.
And if you saw that flash up on the screen for a second there, that was our brand new sign. We are the only name on there. And that's the first time I saw it was yesterday, so it's new as of a month ago. Yeah, Jen had to fill out a lot of paperwork for that, and we have to maintain that beach. And you know how Gracie always jokes that it's our beach? Well, we're the only name on there, so I can't argue now. All right, today's reading is Nikita Gill, and it will be read by Steve, and it looks like Baby Pax as well.
Well, thank you everyone for not cursing. That really helps with our language acquisition skills here. Untitled by Nikita Gill. The rage you are feeling comes from the same place inside your heart as the love. This is why you refuse to accept a world where cruelty reigns and the fire consumes all. You have known hope and joy and kindness like you have known water. And justice is a river that demands you do not give up on it.
All right. I'm excited about this next part. We haven't had this speaker in a while. Our speaker today is Benjamin Bergen. He is a professor of cognitive science at UC San Diego. He studies language and cognition in the laboratory and in the wild. He also is the author of 2 books. Louder Than Words is an introduction to cutting-edge cognitive and brain science, how we manage to extract meaning from the language around us. More recently, his book, What the F, is an examination of how and why we swear and what profanity reveals about our minds, our brains, and ourselves. Benjamin will stay after assembly to answer any questions, so please hold them until then. Please welcome Dr. Benjamin Bergen.
Hi everyone, is this on? Could be.
Is it?
Is it? Really?
Please stand by once again.
I can use this one if that's better.
No, I got you. It's in the other office.
Mine's not working anymore.
Test.
Oh, it needs batteries. I'm so sorry. Go ahead and use that. You can get started, and I'll bring this to you.
Okay. Hello everyone. Hi. So right, it's a real pleasure to be here. You know, I suggested a couple of options to the organizers, including maybe I could talk about artificial intelligence or brains, and they just wanted me to talk about swearing, so I'll do that. Right, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what cognitive scientists think swearing is, what evidence we have for that, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about things that we've discovered about the brain, how it's evolved, and how it's used when we're doing what we all are doing right now, that we wouldn't know if we hadn't looked at taboo language specifically. There are certain things that we can learn by looking at the creepy crawlies under the rock that we wouldn't know if we didn't look there. So when you swear and when you're exposed to profanity, things change in your body. Your heart starts beating faster. You get a shot of adrenaline. Your blood pressure increases. Your pupils dilate. Blood flows to your extremities. You also start to sweat. We can measure how much you're sweating on your skin by running a little electrical current across the surface of your skin, and sweat conducts electricity. So we know that sweating increases when people are exposed to swearing. You also change what your body can do when you swear or are exposed to swearing. So for example, you're better able to tolerate pain when you swear. We know this because of the cold presser task. It's an experimental paradigm that you see exhibited here. You put your hand in a bucket of ice water and hold it there as long as you can. People in this task are randomly assigned to either swear or say neutral words. And it turns out that they can hold their hand in the bucket of water about 50% longer if they're assigned randomly to the swearing condition. And they report that it hurts substantially less as well. We also know that swearing increases the amount of power that you're able to generate. So if you give people a task where they squeeze a grip strength dynamometer, basically just measuring your grip strength, they can produce on average, about 5 pounds more squeeze when assigned to swear than not. If you put them on an inclined treadmill, they can generate about 5% more watts of power output when they swear than when they don't. So swearing is this really transformative thing that's different from the rest of language. Now, that means that it has consequences for you. It also has consequences socially. People bring judgments onto people who they observe to be swearing. Some of those are positive. People who swear are judged to be more honest. They're judged to be more passionate. They're judged to be more humorous, on average, and controlling for all the other things that could impact that. But they're also judged, on average, to be less intelligent. They're judged to be less educated, and they're judged to be less articulate. Now, these are the social judgments. Are any of these true? Well, people have done a bunch of large-scale sort of quantitative studies comparing, if you ask people how much they swear, and you have them take a variety of personality and intelligence tests and that sort of thing. What are the correlations? And there are some correlations. People who report swearing more have better verbal fluency overall. So maybe if you're into language, you're into all kinds of language at the same time. People who swear more are more open to new experiences overall. They, on average, have a higher intelligence quotient as measured by IQ tests, which are problematic in lots of ways, but nevertheless. They are more socially honest, so they're more likely to tell someone what they actually think about it. But increased swearing also correlates on average with increased relational aggression. So this is in a variety of studies, including with teenagers actually. The children who report that they swear more also report more engaging in bullying and other sorts of antisocial behaviors. Increased profanity also correlates with more financial dishonesty. So people who report swearing more are more likely to cheat in an experiment in which they can say that something happened that didn't happen and they get money for it. So this is kind of a characterization of what profanity is in an individual and social context, but what makes words profane? Where do these come from? Obviously there's a special class of words, but what makes them these special words? Well, if you look at all of the words that people judge to be offensive in English, you find that they largely fall into 4 categories relating to the human experiences that they originated. And all 4 of these categories are ones that are taboo themselves, intrinsically or socially, prior to there being words about them. So people have taboos about religion and religious concepts and the use of religious concepts outside of religious context. They have lots of taboos about sex and sexual activity. They have taboos about body parts and bodily functions related to those body parts, and they have taboos about other groups of people, outgroups, people who are not like us. And those are the 4 sources of profanity in English that you see across pretty much every language that has profanity. And they show up in different proportions. Languages can select to have a lot more profanity or a lot more offensive profanity drawn from, say, religious terminology. Quebecois French is an example of that. Italian and Spanish have some very strong taboo language that's drawn from religious terminology. We have less. In contemporary American English, our strongest taboo words relate to other people, are slurs. And that's a change that's actually happened relatively recently over the course of the last 50 years or so. That those have really exceeded, and you can see there that on average they're more offensive than other ones. But other languages select other sources for their taboo language that can relate to animals, or death and disease, other sorts of things like that. These are the big 4, though. There are also cultural differences in whether you think there is such a thing as profanity at all, and what you think you should do about it. So on the one hand, you have languages and cultures that have been reported to not really have much in the way of profanity like what English speakers have. So Japan has, ways to insult people and ways to offend people, but it doesn't have like a class of words that are, bleepable. And there's no practice of bleeping, at least there wasn't until the introduction of American media relatively recently. On the opposite side of things, you have languages and cultures where blasphemy, for example, using religious terminology out of context is a capital offense. That you can see both extremes there, and we live somewhere in between, kind of like maybe Western Europe. Now, just because a word belongs to a particular taboo experience category, like bodily functions or body parts or religious terminology or whatever, that doesn't mean that that word will be taboo. Words go in and out of offensiveness over the course of time. And we can track that history. I'm going to show a little bit of that history with just one word. Is anyone here named Dick? Does anyone here know anyone named Dick? Okay, of those 12 of you, how many of those people are under the age of 65? I'd like to know for the record that the answer was 0. Okay, so I knew that already, and I knew that because of this. So this is the Social Security Administration naming database data. You can look at the birth records for all live births in the United States every year. You can look at what names they were given as their given name. So this is the number per year of babies born in the United States who were given the name Rick, or on the other line, given the name Dick. So these are not Richards, who are nicknamed one or the other. These are actually parents who decided this would be a good name for my child. And what you can see is that over the course of the last, say, 130 years, there have been radical changes in how good people thought that was, an idea that was, to name their child Dick. So peak Dick happens in the 1940s, and then Dick drops off precipitously. What's so funny? In the 1950s. And we know actually why this. You can compare that to Rick, which, there continue to be babies who are given the name Rick. You can see, we know why this happened. In the late 19th century, the word Dick was used as a slang word for a riding crop in the military. And then through, let's call it metaphor, it came to refer to a body part, and that spread through the general populace over the course of the beginning and middle half of the 20th century. And so as more and more parents discovered that there was this other word for Dick, which maybe interfered with their interpretation of their children's names, they decided that they would maybe move away from naming their children Dick over time. Okay, so this is all to say that there are cultural practices at play here. It's not merely the fact that a word relates to a body part that makes it offensive. We have ways to talk about body parts and biological functions that we can use with kindergartners or their teachers or our priests or doctors, right? We have ways to talk about these things. There's cultural selection in which words are offensive at which time. And part of the way that selection gets propagated is through punishment. Punishment is one way to censor the use of language. Another way to do it is sort of at a larger, broader societal scale. We bleep things out in songs. We prohibit people of particular ages from having access to media content of particular varieties. This action of censorship is, in fact, precisely what causes the physiological and social reactions that I talked about at the very beginning. The only reason that you react when I say the name Dick is because you learned from a very early age that there was something special and wrong about this particular word, or at least about using it in a particular social context. And so there's this funny paradox that it's exactly the means of suppression that we use, that we exert on these words to suppress them, that are in fact the same things that create the power that they have over ourselves in terms of our bodily reactions and our social judgments. Okay, so what is profanity? What does it take to have profanity? Well, you need to have a cultural context in which there are beliefs that there are such a thing as bad words that should be regulated. That belief has to be applied to certain words, and we know that there are certain categories of human experience, that we have taboos about things in the world, we have taboos about bodily functions that we wall off behind clothes and inside of rooms with doors and so on. And those taboo beliefs have to be applied to particular words, and then we have to have some cultural structures for propagating those beliefs, enculturating newcomers into our language community, into those beliefs such that they will behave and feel accordingly. Okay, so that was that was the first part. What is profanity? And now quickly, a couple of things that we've learned from profanity about the mind and brain and human evolution. First had to do with speech errors. I've already made a couple of them today, but people make them all the time. And a great question is why? Why do we make errors when we're speaking? There's a Freudian belief that we make errors when we're trying to not say something, but it actually comes out unintentionally. And we see lots of examples of that. I will now show you one example of that, or Laura will, when she presses the button.
It's a sausage competition that I judge.
Oh, in like sausage eating?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
King of the Kubasa and local sausage makers, they all make their best and they enter it.
I bet it's delicious.
It is. It's February 9th, 7 p.m. at Prairie Land Park. Tickets are only $25. It's for charity, and you can get tickets online at
Well, you're thinking about sausage, so.
Pick-a-dick. Oh my goodness. That was ridiculous, wasn't
We
it?
were not drinking wine today.
No, we weren't.
That was really good event.
It is. King of the Kubasa, so go to Pick-a-dick.
We had to play it to the end because she does it twice. So that's what we think of when we think of speech errors, right? And so if Freud is right, if we're right, our intuition is right, then people should be more prone to making these errors when it's something taboo that would come out, right? And so we can induce errors like this in the lab. The way we do it is we give people a task of just reading off pairs of words, and then we pull a switcheroo at the end. So it'll be like shelf heat, shoe high, shine hue, hot shed. Okay, and so when you give people sequences of words like this and they have to do it to a metronome, they have to do it quite quickly, they are prone to swap the first sounds of the last pair. So they're prone to say shot head. Now, those are words. It's a speech error, but it's totally neutral. It doesn't produce anything taboo. You could do this in another condition as well, where you give the people the same sequence, shelf heat, shoe high, shine hue, and then hit shed. And if you swap the first two sounds of these words, that produces a taboo error. Okay, so the question is, which of these is more effective? Are people actually prone to produce taboo errors more so than they are neutral errors? And the answer is, over the course of a variety of studies, starting in the 1980s, that they are in fact not at all. People don't produce more taboo errors. They don't swap hit shed more than they do hot shed. They actually do the reverse. They make the neutral errors. And this leads to this tantalizing possibility that what's happening is inside your brain is that you are actually monitoring not what you've already said, but what you're likely to say in the future. And even though you're not conscious about it, you are suppressing things that might be problematic for you to produce. You've got this self-monitoring system. And we actually know how that self-monitoring system works now, because you can stick people into an fMRI machine and image their brain in real time while they're performing this exact hot shed, hit shed task. And when they avoid making the taboo errors, this is the part of the brain that's selectively more active. Now, you might say, well, that's a blob. What is that blob? Well, we know what that blob is. It's actually the right inferior frontal gyrus, and it's a very well-known blob because it's part of the brain that's active, selectively active, in lots of other environments too, specifically when people are exhibiting self-inhibition. So, for example, when you don't reach for the additional cookie, or when a light changes and you stop yourself from walking into the street because you perceive danger. This inhibitory self-control uses this part of the brain. It sends a signal to the rest of the brain saying, oh, hold on, brakes. And so what we've learned from this is, in fact, that the language production system is self-monitoring, is predicting what you're going to say before you actually say it, is putting on the brakes to make sure you don't make an error, and is using a part of the brain that's actually not related to language at all, part of the brain that evolved for totally different functions, but it seems to have just co-opted for this purpose as well. That's thing one that we've learned. Thing two that we've learned has to do with the parts of the brain that are responsible for language. So if you've taken an intro psych class or neuroscience class or even linguistics class, you might have learned that there are particular parts of the brain, usually in the left hemisphere of your brain, if you're right-handed and even if you're left-handed, that have evolved specifically for language, and they perform specific functions. Broca's area in the front is responsible for making sure people are able to articulate language. Vertica's area in the back is responsible for identifying the meanings of words and stuff like that. And they work together, and they're evolutionarily new, as the rest of our cerebral cortex is evolutionarily new, and they're human-specific, and they seem to be specific to language. It's a really great story, and it turns out not actually to be true. At least it's not entirely true, because it turns out that you can have damage to these parts of your brain that impairs language, but not profanity. And so we know this, in fact, we've known this for a very long, oh dear, did I push the wrong button? Laura, I just destroyed everything. Okay, while Laura's correcting my error, so we've known this for a very long time. In the 18th century, there was a French neuropsychologist, a physician, by the name of, oh, thank you, by the name, except now it's not advancing. Can you advance it for me, Laura? That guy, by the name of Jacques Lourdes, who experienced a stroke at around the age of 50. And one thing that happens when you have a stroke, right? Stroke blocks blood flow to the brain, cells die. Neurons need the oxygen the blood brings there. And the cells that died in his brain caused him to lose the ability to speak. It's called aphasia. In particular, it's called Broca's aphasia now, although it wasn't at the time because Broca hadn't described it yet. But he experienced this aphasia, and he went on to dedicate his career to studying people who had a similar condition. His most famous patient was a priest, parish priest, who had a stroke, lost the ability to speak, and lost absolutely all words except for 2 words. This was in French. The first was je, which means I, and the second was, this is my translation from the French, the most forceful oath of the tongue which begins with an F and which our dictionaries have never dared to print. So this parish priest preserved I and the French F word. And that was all. So what happened here? Well, we can actually dig a little deeper by looking at additional patients who have had different kinds of damage to kind of triangulate. Okay, what do you actually have to swear? One of the most compelling cases is a patient by the name who's pseudonymized as EC. He had a substantial tumor over the motor cortex in his left hemisphere. Again, this is where language mostly is for most people. And it was determined to be malignant, and so it was removed in a surgery. Later on, it was ascertained that that had not stopped its spread, and so to save his life, the physician recommended, and he agreed, that the only solution was to remove the entire hemisphere of his brain. So this is called a radical hemispherectomy. So he was left with only half of his brain. And naturally, this impaired his language ability substantially. But here's what his doctor wrote after recovery. His attempts to reply to questions immediately after operation were totally unsuccessful. He'd open his mouth and utter isolated words, and after apparently struggling to organize words for meaningful speech, recognized his inability and would utter expletives or short emotional phrases, like "God damn it." Expletives and curses were well articulated and clearly understandable. So what this tells us is that it's not just Broca's or Wernicke's area or whatever these special language areas are on the left side of the brain that are critical, they're not necessary for language. In fact, the entire left hemisphere isn't necessary for language. You can generate language with the other hemisphere of your brain. So what part is it? Well, what we need is kind of the opposite of Lourdes' priest, right? We need someone who has just lost swearing, but preserves everything else. If we find what part of their brain was damaged, then that'll tell us what's generating the profanity. And there are not many cases of this, but there is at least one. This is a condition known as automatic aphasia. And so when you look at the reports from people like this, they describe a situation in which, so this is, for example, one patient had a stroke, French, Hebrew, English trilingual, who had a stroke. Language was not impaired at all, except he could not provide the correct expletive for situations described to him, nor could he complete a curse. So this sounds like exactly the case that we're thinking of. What part of the brain was damaged in this particular patient and others like him? It's the basal ganglia. If you've never heard of the basal ganglia, then that's fine. Most people have never heard of the basal ganglia, but you all have one. In fact, so do all primates, and actually all mammals have something like this in their limbic system. That's a part of the brain that's very old evolutionarily and has the job of helping to select actions on the basis of strong emotions. Does that sound suspicious? So the basal ganglia are also implicated in what's known as coprolalia. The coprolalia is the uncontrollable production of taboo words and phrases. It does happen during Tourette syndrome. Some people with Tourette syndrome experience different sorts of verbal tics and vocal tics. Coprolalia is one of them. uncontrollable production of taboo words and phrases. So we know that the basal ganglia of people with coprolalia and with Tourette syndrome more generally have differences in their basal ganglia that leads to differences in these behaviors. So the basal ganglia appear to be implicated in spontaneous production of taboo language. So that tells us that there are actually two different ways that your brain produces language, not just one pathway. There are two of them. So there's one that relies on very old brain structures that we share with other animals. So when your dog yelps or barks or squeals, their basal ganglia are sending a signal that they should vocalize in a particular way. When we swear spontaneously, it appears our basal ganglia are sending signals that we should produce language in a particular way. And then we also have a newer pathway, one that relies on these human and possibly uniquely human and relatively more recently evolved structures on mostly one hemisphere of our cerebral cortex, and that allows us to do the sort of intentional and strategic language production and comprehension that you and I are doing right now. Now, these are things that we've learned, this and the self-monitoring system are things that we've learned about what humans are like and how we've evolved to be this way that we only have learned on the basis of looking under that rock and finding the little creepy crawlies. It turns out that sometimes when you overcome your taboos and look a little bit closer, there's some benefit to both the science and our understanding of what it means for us as humans. And I just wanted to thank you for your attention and look forward to chatting with you later.
No, I think I muted it over there.
Thank you so much for that. Fun story, Lalia is actually short for corporalalia, and that's why. She loves me. Anyway, let's welcome Paul and Jeff with another song.
All right. Little White Stripes song for us here. Fall is here, hear the yell, back to school, ring the bell, brand new shoes, walking blues, climb the fence, books and pens, I can tell that we are gonna be friends. You got it. I can tell that we are gonna be friends. Walk with me, Susie B, through the park and by the tree. We will rest upon the ground, look at all the bugs we found, safely walk to school without a sound. Safely walk to school without a sound. Here we are, no one else, we walk to school all by ourselves, the dirt on our uniforms, chasing all the ants and worms. We clean up and now it's time to learn. You know it is. We clean up and now it's time to learn. Numbers, letters, learn to spell, nouns and books and show and tell. Playtime we will throw the ball, back to class, through the hall. Teacher marks our height against the wall. Teacher marks our height against the wall. A little different here. We don't notice any time pass, just like that. And we don't notice anything. Oh, we sit side by side in every class. Teacher thinks that I sound funny, but she likes the way you sing. Oh, tonight I'm in bed, silly thoughts go through my head about the bugs and alphabet. I wake up
about earlier, this is the content warning. We have a furry friend. Think of it as a tiny little puppy with too many eyeballs. If you are arachnophobic, that is fine. Can't control your fear. It is totally fine to go outside and get a first look at the puzzles, get yourself a copy, close your eyes. We will not be offended. Let's welcome Lelia and my grand spider, Pixie.
Great. I think she's gonna bring her out, but let's start with the slides. No, other way. Other way. My bad. All right, so my spider's name is Pixie, and I'm gonna be doing a show and tell on her. Sorry. So this is Lucas the spider, and he is a little cartoon, a children's cartoon that kind of reminded me of her. Oh, there she is. She's in there somewhere, but don't worry, y'all. I have pictures, so you'll see her. So how does one become a mother of a spider? Well, I will tell you. So you just have a very nice cousin who unfortunately could not make it here today, but after begging her for her spider's babies, I got one, and all I had to do was convince my mom. So, okay, I gotta make this good. So I was like, okay. You know, easiest pet you'll ever have. All you need is like an enclosure and like a mealworm once in a while. And she was like, okay, you can have a spider, but you have to pay for everything except the mealworms. I got that part. I'm like, awesome, easy. All you need, like an enclosure or whatever. I was in fact wrong. That is not everything you'll need. So I will be telling you the stuff you'll need. So first up, hit the nail right on the head. You do need an enclosure. And next up, you need some like substrate. I used aquarium rocks because it's easy to clean. Some decorations. I chose a little tree and a flower here. A humidity sensor and temperature because they're very fragile and you need to control the humidity very well. A little hang that she refuses to use. I know, it's tough being a spider who just sits there and does nothing all day. And a mister to help with the humidity. Tweezers to, because sometimes she's too lazy to eat, and so I have to just kind of shove it in her direction, the worms. But usually she uses this little bowl that is magnetic and attaches to the side, and she'll eat out of that. And this is her eating a mealworm twice her size.
Still eyeing it up? Good girl. Oh! Damn!
Yeah, I was obviously very impressed. And this is called a Portia fimbriata, which is considered to be the smartest spider in the world, and it is a species of jumping spider. And researchers suggest that jumping spiders actually dream. They go through REM sleep, they twitch, they like have rapid eye movement. And they suggest that they usually dream about hunting and eating their food, like this mealworm. And next up is molting. So spiders retreat in their nest for up to 3 weeks, every like month or so, which is a little scary because they don't eat during that time. And usually spiders go from like dramatic color changes, like this really light brown to this deep obsidian black. And my spider, on the other hand, got a little hat, you know? Got a little hat, love her nonetheless, she's very pretty. After this molting process, they eject their skins out of their nest, like, okay, we're done with this. We got like a long live the king moment. The spider is inside the nest, pushing off the skin. And here is a close-up of that skin. And since I'm a weirdo, I do collect these skins in a jar and keep them in my room because I'm like, oh, my baby's all grown up with this little shed and this big shed. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for sharing, Lelia. Hello, Pixie. Oh, you can see her from there. I'm gonna, wee. She got evacuated during the fires. Parapraxia for you. And started bobbing out to, it wasn't Lady Gaga, what was it? Chaperone, yeah. Came on the radio and the spider just was like into it. Her first car ride. Well, our theme is curses. So I was going to share a funny story about the time I accidentally cursed in front of my in-laws, but that was last week when they flew up to see us. And we were watching September 5th, and for those of you who aren't aware, it's about the 1972 Olympics that had the terrorist attack. And they lived through it. They saw it live. They were a couple at the time. I could not be bothered to look up the historical thing that happened, and so I'm watching the movie with, very innocent eyes, and when it gets to the terrorism, I let out an expletive under my breath, not meaning to, and then just felt all of the oxygen be sucked out of the room, and everyone stiffen. So for some context, as some of you know, I grew up in a high-demand religion that taught that there were some bad words that were big no-nos because they made God big mad. So we had to avoid them at all costs. And maybe cover Baby Pax's ears for these. These were some of the words not allowed in my church and church school. Shucks. Fart. Hella, because it was hella the 90s. Because we were taught that bad words, and these were called Christian cussing in the 90s, but these were words that really meant bad words and God knew what you meant and you were going to be in trouble. The worst trouble my little cousin ever got into was he was barely older than a toddler, and he was playing a video game at our family reunion called Kirby's Adventures. Is anyone familiar with Kirby? What is Kirby's superpower?
Sucks.
If you said he sucks, you are technically correct and going straight to hell. Yes, he's a little pink blob monster that sucks up bad guys into his mouth and then absorbs their powers. It's horrifyingly adorable. So we say vacuums in this house, according to my cousin, his mom. And I would learn years later from my therapist that I developed something called religious scrupulosity. That is a condition where you are so focused on not doing the bad thing and making the big God big mad, and that you become compulsive about it. And so, was I ever going to cuss in front of my in-laws? I met their son in church youth group? No. Been together 25 years? No. Come from the same small community. This was horrifying to me because of that. Then fast forward to my deconstruction process, getting out of a high-demand religion, and learning for myself what morality was, because I had inherited a set of rules, but now I had to build my own morality from scratch, which is terrible for me because I'm lazy, and just getting one inherited and handed down from on high just saved me so much time and brain cells. But no, now I have to look up harm reduction and what constitutes harm, and I learned that cuss words, even fart, even shucks, guys, nowhere near as harmful as slurs, as misgendering someone, as saying the right words in just the most devastatingly harmful way. So I had to base my morality based on reducing harm and putting good into the world and using my language strategically. What I learned was that sometimes one of the bad words in the right situation, in the right context, can be the absolutely most appropriate thing to do. And sometimes what we consider a bad word isn't, or is, depending on someone's background and their culture. What I also learned was some people can't control cussing. And now fast forward to last year where I scrambled my brains and got a traumatic brain injury and had experienced what we call aphasia, according to the slideshow we just saw, where I knew what word I wanted to use. It was behind glass. Here's the glass. I knew what letter it started with. I knew how long it was. I could see it. I knew what it meant. And I could not reach it verbally. So in order to reach around that glass, remember all my MC addresses were audience participation? I would say, word that means, just out of the blue. Word that means, and you all would just jump in with all the words. I was, that one, thank you. I just can't thank my Sunday Assembly enough for this past year. The board took over my role. James took interim executive director responsibilities. You all cleaned my bathroom, you did my dishes, you took my kids to social events while I couldn't drive. I was cleared to drive way sooner than you would all be comfortable with if you weren't already terrified of Southern California traffic. But you know the one thing I never lost, the one language I never lost access to? I mean, you all just saw the talk. I could curse like a sailor. That flowed like water. No class. Only bad words. Bad words I never used in my life in any context. So that just easy. It was easy. And I go to my neurologist, and he's not helpful because he says, yeah, everyone curses during these. I'm doing neurological exams, so they're testing like, that's a horse. No, that's a rhinoceros, I found out. That it's a horse with a nose. I got half credit for that. Anyway, and he's like, and I just feel like cussing. He's like, go ahead and everyone cusses during these. That's the one area that doesn't seem to go away easily when you hurt other areas of language. So the biggest lesson I've learned now is you never know if you hear someone cussing. You know the social aspect is to judge them for being less intelligent, but you don't know if they are so intelligent they love language in all its facets. You don't know if they are suffering from brain injury. And to just be gentle with each other, and also gentle with ourselves, because it turned out later, when I asked, no one cared. No one had cared that I cussed. We're all adults. My in-laws were like, whatever. It was all in my head. I had overthought the whole thing. What the fart. Thank you. All right, every assembly we have a moment of silent reflection, just something to ground us and get us ready for upcoming events. So, deep breath, and a moment of silent reflection. We feel our bodies and ground ourselves. I'm going to have people who are giving announcements start to make their way up. And while they're making their way up, I want you to notice in your programs that we have a new QR code of upcoming events. So that is easy to access, so you can know all our movie nights and our restaurants and all of that from there.
I'm first. Out on our patio, we have going on right now, or right after this ends, a book puzzle art game swap. There are all kinds of things that people have brought to donate. You do not have to have donated anything to take as much as you want. Nothing, there are no fees, feel free. And I also am supposed to announce that we, after the next assembly, will be having Pasta La Vista, baby! Woo! And that's a pun. I had to be told that was a pun. Anyway, it's a great opportunity for us to get together and share some food. So please bring a pasta dish to share for this potluck style event. And if you can, let us know on Meetup what you plan to bring. And worry not, our food competitions will return in June with our cookie contest.
Thank you, Lynn. If this is not enough convivial good fun for you today, next weekend, Sunday Assembly is hosting a backyard potluck. It's, I think, capped at 60 people. It is celebrating the equinox, and we have one every quarter. Equinox, solstice, I could go on forever. Please do sign up and join that, and let us know what you're bringing if you can. But if that isn't enough convivial fun for you, we have a couple of walks that we host. There's one, we're going to do rock painting at the equinox, so we rock painting at every table. We will deposit those equinox rocks on the Ivy rock snake. We're going to take a walk from the Ivy Pier up to the rock snake and deposit those there, take a picture, and walk back. And then the weekend after that, we are doing the Balboa Park Bridle Path Walk. This is I would call moderately difficult walk, and possibly in mud. So please join up and join us.
Okay, on March 29th, a group of us are going to see a hockey game, the San Diego Gulls versus the Calgary Wranglers. It's at Pechanga Arena in kind of sports arena area. Tickets are $20. You need to purchase tickets by the 21st. You can see me, there's instructions on the meetup of how to do that if you don't want to do it today. And then we'll transfer your tickets to you. You just go in, we'll all be sitting together, and we've done it in the past. It's been a ton of fun. And then on April 12th, we'll be having our annual rummage sale. We are taking your donated household goods, tools, sports equipment, and the like for sale at this fundraiser. It's a big fundraiser for us. Please bring your items to any upcoming event, or you can talk to any volunteer you saw up here today, and we can help you arrange to get those items to us for the rummage sale. Or if you would like to help out and be there at 5 a.m. to help us set up, we would also really like that. All of you. Thank you.
All right, it looks like the Zoomblers are on the move. Here they are, running across the room to wave at us. Hi, Zoomblers. Quit moving all over the country. All right, big thank yous to our San Diego Sunday Assembly board, our volunteers, the people that make these happen. Special thanks to Matt Zableski for putting the QR code in the program. And also, we couldn't do this without Paul and Jeff, so take it away.
Okay, so, and we're going to stand up and sing this, but don't do that quite yet. A classic rock tune, all-star. Many of us know it. Those of us who don't will in a moment. So there were times in the past where we brought the Tom Lear Elements song. Any of you remember when we did that? And it was like super fast, all the elements in a row. And because we did that, I now have confidence that this song with fast verses and fast words is going to be an absolute hit. That you guys are going to nail this thing, right? Am I right? So, let us practice the chorus. Woo! Come back. Wrong one. There we go. Oh, hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, get paid. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your show on, get paid. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. Try it again. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get your show on, get paid. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. You ready? Everybody up. Only shooting stars break cool place and say it gets colder. You better run now, wait till you get older. Here and back to different, judging by the hole in the satellite picture. The ice we skate, get pretty thin. Water's getting warm, so you might as well swim. Our world's on fire, how about yours? That's the way we like it, and I never get bored. Here we go! Hey now, you're a rock star, get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star, get your show on, get paid. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. Come on, whistle. Oh, hey now, you're a rock star, get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star, get your show on, get paid. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. Somebody once asking us this change room. I got to get myself away from this place. I said, yeah, what a concept. I could use a little fool myself. We could all use a little change. Well, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. Back to the rules and move around running. Didn't make sense not to live for a run. The rain gets warm, but you can't get some. So much to do, so much to see. Foot on the table in the bathroom. And you know if you don't go, you never shine if you don't go. Hey now, you're a rock star, get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star, get your show on, get paid. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. All the glitters. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. Woo! You guys rock it.
It's official. Chaperone and Paul and Jeff make the spider rock out. Thank you so much. Keep in mind, we are all volunteers here. If you would like to donate to Sunday Assembly San Diego, please see the QR code in your program or throw some cash in the jars. None of that is expected to enjoy the puzzle game art swap. Feel free to take whatever you need. Stay around for coffee and snacks. And thank you, Paul and Jeff, for the music. We will see you next